So let's talk about perfection and how this concept can be very detrimental to living our daily life. First, let's look at perfection from a functional point of view, from purely something that can have a positive impact in our lives. From that point of view, perfection is um, just a concept that is absurd because you can never reach it, right? Perfection is something that is unimprovable. A perfect thing is a finished thing. You cannot improve upon it. And if anything, that's really sad in a way, especially when it comes down to a living human being, right? Um, Imperfection is a much better alternative to perfection because it's conducive to a joyful life. It allows for a continuous exploration of the unknown and a curious and open attitude towards discovering new things about the world and especially about yourself. Because no matter how much you look, you will continue to discover new things. And that's the joy of it. That's what life is all about ultimately. If you have this kind of curious way of going through life, this kind of investigative childlike curiosity and always willing to learn and find out things that you didn't know about before, this is ultimately giving you the kind of excitement that no thrill, no thing um, can give to you. So from that point of view, we should all be grateful for being imperfect, for having this opportunity of always discovering ways of improving ourselves from purely capabilities or skills point of view, not from a point of view which is linked to who we are, to our core, in our essence. And I want to come back to that now, because perfection again doesn't make sense in terms of our, let's say, worldly interactions, but it is a thing, right? It's just that it's just that perfection is not something that we do, right? Perfection simply is. And how I look at things is that every single moment that we live is perfect in itself. And according to my definition, that something perfect is unimprovable, this is the case. Every single moment that we live in this life is unimprovable, which means that it's perfect, which means that it simply is. Independent of the descriptions that our minds come up with, independent of the ways that we classify and categorize certain events, everything is perfect in itself, right? Because it's unimprovable. And if we look at each moment as this holistic container of everything, then everything is always perfect, which simply contributes to the joy of not carrying the weight of having to do something to be perfect. You can always try to improve yourself again when it comes down to developing new skills, new attitudes, new capabilities in terms of how to interact with the world at large, with your friends, with your peers. But there is no need for this kind of pressure that you have to be perfect, that you have to do something to be perfect, that you have to fix things in order to allow yourself to really enjoy just the simple beauty of everyday existence. I came to this simple realization after years of suffering and struggle. Um, and now I realize how futile and absurd it is. I realize how easy and simple life is in its essence. um, and that my care for being perfect has nothing to do with how perfect life already is, and my struggle will not contribute in making anything more perfect, right? I cannot approach perfection even by me doing things. Perfection is, life is perfect in itself, by itself, without me forcing anything, without you being able to do anything about it. You can try to improve things based on what you observe, but you don't really improve the moment as such. You improve your ability to cope with it, your ability to integrate it in your life. Your position to it might change. You learn something from it. But that's your problem in a way, right? That's your attitude. That's a mind overlay on top of something which is ultimately unimprovable. Um, so this explanation has a spiritual take on it, if you want, but this is what allows me to be at ease with what happens at all times. This doesn't mean that I'm always at ease with what happens, but I am always defaulting to this realization. And it doesn't take me now days or hours, it takes me maybe minutes to realize that all my attempts at being perfect are just futile and are absurd. And when I remember this knowing, this knowledge that everything is perfect in itself by design always, I just get again this feeling of ease and peace ultimately. And this realization that life itself is perfection and is the ultimate safety net. Because I'm part of it. I was always part of it. You are part of it. You are always part of it as well. And you will be always part of it in one way or another. So life is not meant to be challenging in the traditional sense. We make it challenging. We make it hard because we attach this overlay of frustration and resistance to it instead of simply allowing it to be as it is. Allowing our so-called imperfections to just speak of our uniqueness. You are unique also because you're imperfections. If you would be perfect, you would be a very sad story. So embrace your imperfections. Know that you are always and already perfect simply because you are an integral part of life. From that point of view, you are unimprovable. There is nothing to fix about you. There is nothing to change in that way. Change can come as a voluntary act to improve your capabilities, your knowledge, your understanding of the world, but without interfering with your true nature, because that's something that is unimprovable. Your true nature is always perfect by the very nature of it, by the very fact that is always aligned with life itself, and life itself is divine. Life itself is sacred, and you are sacred. So try to find peace in that and embrace imperfection for the joyful aspects of it, for the opportunity to learn something new about yourself, and drop the perfection as a mind-made concept, as something that you should strive for, because that's an illusion that doesn't exist. Happy exploration.